Hello, my name is Stephen Hunter. Thanks for joining us today. I have with us today in the Cincinnati Black Theater Company studios with me is Mr. Richard Stewart. He has a wealth of information that he can teach the young. They say the best information that you can get is to learn from those who came before us. Mr. Stewart has seen a lot in this country. He's been through Normandy, been through World War, seen civil rights struggle, been through Jim Crow, and he's here with us today. Mr. Stewart, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a little old country boy. I was born 1920 in the country in Grant County, Indiana. I went to school. We had a little one-room schoolhouse.
Wow.
Got my first 8 years before I got my education. In that respect, it was all a black community. A little place called Weaver, Indiana. That's where I'm come from. Then I spent my first 8 years in this one-room schoolhouse. Then the ninth grade, I moved to town and went to McCullough Junior High School. And that was a first mixed school that I went to in Marion, Indiana. And from there, 1936 to 39, I graduated from Marion High School in Indiana, Marion, Indiana. And I'm from a family of 8 siblings. There were 10 altogether. And during that day and time, it was during the Depression.
Wow.
In that respect, so you was lucky. I remember father working for a farmer, getting $1 a day.
Wow.
Getting $1 a day in order to feed his family. But you could take $3 to $4, and feed a family of 8 for a week.
Wow. Wonderful.
Because things, what it costs today, $25 a day, you can take about $5 and feed a family of 8 for a week during that day and time. And it's amazing how the cost has escalated. During that, since that time. And my father said, I'm going to put you through high school. Now, if you want to go to college, you got to make an effort.
Wonderful.
Because he didn't have no money to waste on us going to college and flunking out. So during that day and time, we wasn't nothing but the pick and shovel.
Wow.
And they didn't tell you nothing about no scholarships, grants, or anything of that nature. So the very last semester, I asked the Lord, what am I going to do to make a living? And that day and time, they call them undertakers.
Wow. Wonderful.
So when I said that, I knew that I had to get myself in gear, make some money, save my money, so I could go to college. Because Dad didn't have no money
Right.
to send me to college and flunking out. Now, of course, I'm sure that all of you, I'll say most of us, remember history.
Yes, sir.
Back in December the 7th, 1942.
That was the day of Normandy invasion.
That was when the Jap bombed Pearl Harbor.
Japs bombed Pearl Harbor. Right.
And that ship had Congress had listened to the military leaders, they would have been better prepared. But they didn't listen to it. So that ship in Pearl Harbor is nothing but a graveyard.
Wow. Do you remember that? Like it just happened? Like, do you remember
Yes.
getting a news report and things like that?
I remember that.
Wonderful.
Because that's when they instituted the draft. That all 21 and older had to register.
Right.
Well,
And,
that caught me.
right. And who was the president at that time? Who was the
Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
okay. Roosevelt.
I think sure most of you remember him because he was paralyzed. He was in a wheelchair.
Right. Right.
And his wife was Eleanor Roosevelt.
Right.
In that respect. So I started embalming college in September of 1942.
Okay.
In that respect, in order to get my field director embalmer's license.
But at what point were you called up? Were you called up in the draft? Were you called?
Yes, I was caught in the draft.
In the draft.
And in December, my mid-November,
Right.
is when I received my to report
Active duty.
to
I
be
got,
examined.
how were the black soldiers treated then? How did the black soldiers get treated? Like,
Well, here's what happened. During that day and time, the black soldiers had a black outfit with white officers. We were segregated, period, in that respect. And I remember that some of the white soldiers did not want to salute a black officer. I remember that. So December 31st, 1942, I reported for my examination at Fort Harrison. I examined on January the 7th, 1943. That's when they sent me to Fort Benjamin Harrison.
wow.
And from Fort Benjamin Harrison
Where was that station at? What country was that in? Where was
in Indiana.
Okay, Indiana.
Indiana, and from there they sent me to Kernsville, Utah,
Utah.
to do my basic training and everything. And I did my 8 weeks basic training outside of Salt Lake City in Utah. And from when I finished my basic training there, they sent me from Kernsville to Neosho, Missouri, a place between Joplin and St. Louis.
Okay. Were you the only one in your family that was drafted, or did any of your siblings go and fight the war also?
Not World War II.
Okay.
I had 2 brothers. Ever since World War II, it's been nothing but a corporate war. They were one brother in Korea, the other was in I think Vietnam. Of course, those 2 brothers they have passed on. They were younger than I am. Thank the Lord. In that respect, one just passed July of last year. He passed on July the 16th.
Okay.
And his birthday was the 17th
Wow.
of July.
Wow. How old was he?
He passed around about 10:30 at night On the 60, had he lived two more
Wow,
hours, he'd have been
would've
90 years old.
Wow. He was just about there.
And but he was tired, and he prayed the Lord for the Lord to take him, because what happened to him, he had kidney failure.
Wow.
His kidney failed on her, and being dialyzed 3 times a week. I know about that, because my wife, back in the 60s, her kidney failed on her, and we had to do home dialysis.
Okay. Yeah. So you
for
were
3 times a week.
okay. So you was your wife's caretaker. And
Right.
At what point did you come to Cincinnati? Make Cincinnati home?
Well, I came to Cincinnati back April 19th, 1953 is when I hit Cincinnati.
Okay. And you've been here ever since?
And I have been here ever since. And I started working with the Houston and Son Funeral Home.
Okay.
Well, Anna Mae Houston and her son Walter Houston.
Okay. And that was a black funeral home in
It
Cincinnati?
was a black funeral home.
Wow.
When I came here, we had 18 black funeral homes.
Okay. Wow. And you worked you knew all of them. Everyone knew each other, didn't they?
I worked with quite a few of them. I did freelance embalming and directing for quite a few of them.
Wow. I got a question. It was a verse I was reading one time in Ecclesiastes 7:2. And it said, it's better to be in a house of mourning than a house of feasting, for it is the end of all men. What do you think that means? I mean, I know that you've spent many times embalming with bodies and things like that. What do you think that means? What is that like? What impact does that have on? What impact would that have on someone like you who's been in a funeral home for many years?
Well, the thing of it is, I still look to our Heavenly Father.
Wow.
He is my leader. He has protected me all these years, and He's still protecting me. And the thing of it is, you have to choose. When I say choose, your associates, as to whom you associate with, and stay away from those that have no desire to do anything other than kill one another. And that's what's happening today.
Wow.
Back in my day and time, it's very seldom hear of someone being killed, getting killed.
Right.
But now it's a common experience.
Mm-hmm. I had a great grandmother who passed away about 13 years ago, and she was 99 years old. And I had a grandfather who passed away about 20 years ago.
Okay.
And my mother, she's in her 70s, and it's something that they always tell me about the black community. And I know a lot of these younger kids don't understand, and I kind of got a kick out of, even when I was younger, hearing this story from older folks telling me about this. What was that like in the black community when you did something wrong and you got about 3 butt whoopings before you got home?
Well, when you did something wrong, if you did it in school or if you did it out there, if I was at your house playing and we did something wrong, your mother or father, whomever, whipped your behind, they whipped mine. And I got it when I got home. So it goes right back to that old African saying, it takes a village to raise a child. The village is not raising children anymore today.
Right.
It's far from that.
Right.
Because today, if a child over there does something and you say something to them, well, the parents want to come and get on you instead of checking that child out. Because number one, if you don't bring up a child, train up a child the way it's supposed to go, what it's going to do, it's going to strafe them. But it won't strafe them if it's brought up the right way.
Right. I just remember one time my great grandmother was telling me about tie up my shoe, and she was holding that, you know, what they call a switch. And I first time I ever seen a switch, I didn't even know what that meant, you know. And kept telling me to tie up your shoe, and I was like 4 years old, you know. And I just had to ask you that because I've heard that, you know, a lot, you know, raising up a child. I know that you've had a whole lot of experiences that you can share with people. What was it like? And I know you was in the invasion of Normandy. That's what I heard, right? That day. And that's a day that they always talk about in history. They call it D-Day. What was it like? Yeah. One thing we never hear, and this is one thing we never hear about this. What was it like being a black soldier going into Normandy?
Well, the thing of it was, now we were stationed right outside of London. Our outfit was stationed right outside of London. And we hit Normandy Beach. D-Day was June the 7th, 1944. And we hit Normandy Beach around June the 7th, in July 1944 is when we hit Normandy Beach. Now, what we did not see was any of our equipment or men that had been lost, and we knew we lost a lot. What we did see, and what they did see, was a lot of dead soldiers, German soldiers, laying around in their green uniforms on the ground. I suppose that was supposed to have been a morale builder for us, for the American troops,
right,
in that day and time. But here's one thing about it. With the black soldiers, everything, we were segregated, yes, still segregated. And when we hit France, they closed everything else from us, period, in that respect.
Wow.
And I remember one day we were in the field, and our job was to strengthen communication lines. And that's what we did. Either up on the pole, pull them cross arms up and the line, and as well as inspecting the cable. If there was a break in the cable, because we had to go out there and try to find what, and replace that broken cable or the line. And I remember one day we were in the field inspecting the lines, and I heard this noise, the bomb, and hit someplace close by. And where we were, the ground shook as if an earthquake had hit in that respect. So, and our lieutenant jumped in the Jeep and went back to headquarters. But we still had to stay out there and inspect those lines in that respect. And I remember a whole lot about it. And we had, for our meal, noonday meal, sea ration, what we call sea ration, it was in a can.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of times we would set this can on top of the engine of the truck that was in, because they try and warm it up. But otherwise, it was cold.
Wow.
In that respect. We get a hot breakfast, cold lunch, and a hot dinner, or supper as we call it. That's what we call it, supper.
How was it like going and seeing things like the Negro Baseball League? Because all those things were gone by the time I came along. So how was that like, you know?
Well, I tell you what, during that day and time, we had the basketball team, baseball teams. The only thing we had, we didn't have the football team. We didn't have no football team. I remember, so far as the Negro League, we had the Indianapolis Indians, Chicago American Giants, Kansas City Monarchs, and also the team Birmingham Black Barons. And Robinson came out from the Kansas City Monarchs.
Okay.
When Branch Rickey selected him to break the color line in baseball, and he counseled Robinson and told him, "Don't you say nothing. We'll fight for you." And then, of course, he got called everything. And I do remember this, that they had train loads of people. When the Dodgers came here to play in Cincinnati, train loads of people coming up out of the South to see Robinson play, see him play in that respect. And I remember this one incident with Robinson. He had him on, he playing first base, where someone put a black cat on the field.
Wow.
And Pee Wee Reese now was the shortstop at that day and time. So he took it up, and he fought for Robinson. Now today, Robinson couldn't say nothing. They didn't want him to say anything, because had he opened his mouth, heaven knows it would set baseball back so far as the black players were concerned. Now they can say what they want to now.
Right.
Because they accept it.
All right, sir. I know earlier before the interview, I heard you say one phrase, and you said you've seen a lot of changes. I know you've lived in Cincinnati. You said you've been here since 1953. Have you seen, has it changed? Would you say it changed for the better or for the worse?
It's mixed. When I say mixed, simply because integration. And when I came here in Cincinnati, we had a lot of black businesses, funeral homes, restaurants, so forth, and the professional personnel, the doctors, and all that. And I remember one time we had when I worked with the Houston Funeral Home, this doctor came in to view the person. Mm-hmm. And he said to me that it had changed because he is signing more death certificates. He was signing more death certificates at that time because they believe his diagnosis in that respect. But a lot of times, I don't think so and so, and he would change the doctors.
Wow.
But they would pass it anyway. And we had up here on Gilbert Avenue, right there at almost a Lincoln and Gilbert, had this doctor's office, the Ideal. It's not there anymore.
Wow.
And on the corner where was Jones's grocery store, where since Mr. Jones passed, George Jones passed, been a nightclub, whatever, everything else, and that day and time on Lincoln Avenue, we had Ruby's Barbecue and Ruby's Barbecue.
Wow, all black-owned businesses in the city.
Black-owned business and Thatcher's fish market on Gilbert, between Gilbert and Park Avenue on Lincoln Avenue there.
There was a guy that they always talk about, a black man that was downtown selling peanuts. I think they call it Peanut Jim. Is that what it was, Peanut Jim? Did you know Mr. Peanut Jim, they called him? He was a guy?
Yes.
I think that was his name.
Peanuts at every baseball game. He'd be outside with his little wagon selling peanuts.
Right, I remember hearing my pastor talk about him, and he said that the guy would wear a tuxedo and everything. He was a black man.
That's right.
And everybody called him Peanut Jim. He was known around the city. And, you know, those are the type of stories that we got to remember. That's why it's important that you're here today so that everyone can hear how Cincinnati was before. Now, I know you was telling about Normandy and things like that, but even being a funeral director, I mean, I hate to say it like this, but you've seen a lot of death. You know, you've seen a lot of death, and you deal with at funeral. How, like, was that true what they say, that an undertaker always has a job, that a funeral home always has to have a job? Even in bad economy, does business go up?
Well, in a way, yes, he would have a job, but then the thing of it is, you can have a job, but people do not prepare for death.
Yeah, wow.
I wish that I had in my pocket, in the bank account, 1/10 of 1% of what all the funeral directors here in Cincinnati had on their book.
Wow.
Because people were today does not amount to a hill of beans.
Wow.
When I say that is, now, when your parents come along, your grandfather, grandmother, and your mother, if they said, I'll see you Friday, they would see you Friday. Come in and pay you what they promised. Not today.
Wow.
If you don't get it in front today, you don't get it, period.
Wow.
That's also, if you don't get it in front, you don't get it behind.
I know that you've seen a lot, and I know that it'd be almost impossible to capture all the things, recap everything that you've seen. But what would you like to say to all the youth and young men and young women who you've already seen a lot and lived a lot, and like I said, learn from those who came before us? What would you like to say to them? What would be the biggest advice you would like to say? You've even seen death, so
what I want to say to the youth today, you have a lot better chance of making something of yourself today, out of yourself, than when I came along. Simply because we were not told about a scholarship, grant, or anything of that nature. But now, if you keep your grades up and keep them up, you can get a scholarship or a grant to go to college, to be what you want to be.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be walking around the street here with, well, I'm gonna say this. It hits a lot of old and young people alike. walk with your pants falling off your behind.
Right, right,
Nobody wants to see your behind.
right.
And pull your pants up. I had a grandson. I have a grandson. That he started that when his pants falling off of him. So I told him, pull your pants up. I don't want to see your behind. Nobody wants to see it. And that broke him of his pants hanging down, falling off of him. I was in the store the other day, and I saw this big, I guess he's been about 300-400 pounder,
Wow.
walk with his pants falling off his behind. And that was sickening, real sickening. But
Okay.
I say to the youth, there are anything that you could be whatever you want to be. Don't let nobody tell you you can't do it. And if they tell you you can't do it, prove to yourself you can do it. That's what I know. When I was in embalming college, I went to embalming college. I started in September of '42, and this funeral director was questioned me. I hadn't been in there a month. So and so and so and so, just that. So and so and so and so. I didn't know what he was talking about. Had not had it. We had not crossed to come to that, what he was talking about. But by the same token, when he said, if you don't study, you're not going to make it, you don't tell me what I can do, what I won't do, because I know what I can do. That made me work harder to do and be able to pass the exam. So, in that respect,
Oh, yes, sir.
when I was, I would say, you know, what happened in December 7th, we all 21 years and older had to register for the draft. I got my greetings in November of '42 to report for induction.
Wow.
And then the 31st day of December, nothing wrong with me. And I thank God that nothing wrong with me today.
Wonderful. Yes.
The only medication that I take that goes in this body is 10 milligrams of antilopen, and that's for my pressure. And I've been on that for 20-something years, period.
Wow.
And an aspirin, nothing else. I'm so thankful. And to the youth, study. You do not need to deal with any drugs, alcohol, in that respect. And the thing of it is, choose your associates. If you want to go up, get with somebody who wants to go up, climb that ladder of success.
Says, okay, African American World War Day veteran, still driving, working, mentoring, turns 100 years old. Wow.
Here's the article
Wow.
that appeared in the Herald.
Thank you. Wow. Okay. I do remember seeing. Okay, I do remember seeing you on the news. Okay, I remember
Yes,
that.
and that's what I'm telling 9 and 12 came out to the
Right. And they said you were still working. That's the biggest thing they said. He's still working.
Well, I'm still working to keep my body active. I don't want to fall apart.
Wonderful.
You know, I've asked the good Lord to give me 20 more good years.
Oh, yes, sir. He's able to.
And in that respect, and I don't intend to do anything to keep you doing anything to keep being able to get the 20 years that he has in store for me.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir.
here's an article in regards to when they came along, first opened up, that
Okay.
what we did for a family. There's that article there.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. And this is in the Cincinnati Herald. Okay. Yeah, this is a wonderful article. And Mr. Richard Stewart, I would like to thank you for joining us today. I know that our time has ran its course on the show. But it was excellent having you. You've been a wonderful guest. You have a lot of history, a lot that you can teach the young. I would like to thank you for joining me today in Cincinnati Black Theater Company Studios. And look forward to hearing more of your stories in the upcoming years to
I
come.
thank you for having me.
Ah, no
To
problem.
pull
Thank you,
yourself
sir.
up
Thank
by your own bootstraps. Nobody's going to help you, and nobody's going to make you. Plus the fact nobody's going to get behind you with a whip and tell you, you got to do so, and you're going to do this, you're going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not happening today.
Oh, yes, sir. Right.
And that's another thing. I'm so glad that my father and mother stayed behind me.
Wonderful.
And I appreciate you having me here this afternoon.
The thing is, it's a pleasure to have you. It's always a pleasure to have you.
And anytime, anywhere, be an inspiration, try to be an inspiration to the youth
Oh, yes, sir.
in that respect. As I said, I wish and pray that they throw those guns away
Oh, yes, sir. You need to.
in that respect.
Yes, sir. And thank you. Thanks for joining us today. And it was a wonderful show. And we look forward to possibly talking to you again in the near
All
future.
right.
Yes, sir.
Anytime.
Yes, that concludes our show today. Thank you all for joining us, and come back and join us again.